Money, money. There are a handful of topics that we as a society choose not to discuss enough. There is a way that we do, but we're very specific about it. We don't want to talk about sex. We don't want to talk about politics. Definitely not touching religion. All of the isms, racism, sexism, all the isms. And we will also add into that category money. We don't want to talk about money. Yet money is a tool that we have to use. Granted, you could always barter and trade, but let's be honest. For most of the items, the services that we require, it requires money. But now, add into the mix women and money. And I don't know about you guys, but it gets a little funny over here, especially if you've never had anyone to teach you about money, how it works, how it moves, how you should, and I hate to use the word should, but how best to manage it. There's the word. That's the word. So today we are going to talk about some money. Hello, welcome to Ladies Listen Up. I am your host, Gwendolyn, G.R. Houston Jack. Money, yes, money. All right, it's time to get down and dirty. It's time to get honest about money. And we are specifically talking to women when it comes to this, because the way society has us set up, and I'm going to say it, for a number of women, talking about money, having money really falls on having a provider to do all that for you. My husband typically does XYZ. My spouse, my partner, typically handles blah, blah, and blah. That's the norm. That's the norm. Or, pardon me, that is the norm that is shared in our society. And if you look at history, and I really wish I had the person who helped change this dynamic, but women did not get a chance to even have their own checking account until 1974. Ladies, I was born in 1975. It has not been that long ago that we have been handling our own money. So today's conversation is really about changing that relationship, being more open and honest about talking about money, because it's a tool. Now, I said it before. Could you use trade and bartering? You most certainly can. I don't know about you guys and your grandmothers, but I've had grandmothers and aunts who bartered or traded some of their baked goods for something else. Is how they got stuff done. It is still a form of money, but most of the things that we're looking for now require the mean green. If you're looking to get a car, looking to buy a purse, put gas in the car, put groceries on the table, there's not a trade there. You're not bartering your time to get a bag of groceries. You need to put some cash on the table to get those groceries. So, where do you get your information about money? Now, I'm going to use myself because that's what I know. I'm going to use my dad as well. My mother and father had a really great relationship. In my opinion, a beautiful marriage. I have seen them be rich. I have seen them be poor. I have seen them have and have not. I have seen sickness and how they went through all the vows. So when I say it was beautiful, I meant that. Like they did all of it and worked through it, because it is a job. But the one thing that my dad shared a lot with us, and my mother included, was how to handle the money. I watched them on a consistent basis weekly. at the kitchen table, balancing the checkbook and checking the bills. Now, keep this in mind. 50 years they were together, married, 51 as a couple. When my dad passed away, my mother, she was a kept woman. She didn't have to worry about the money because Pops took care of everything. So much so that this retired minister, who is heavy in her faith, when she finally accepted that my dad was not going to win the battle against lung cancer, there was a moment where she panicked. And I had never seen it before. Mother is great. She understands death. So please don't take it as she didn't know. Mother understands death. Death happens. It's a natural thing. We come in and we go in. End of story. So that wasn't where she was freaking out. It was, I am now going to take over this household. I have never taken over this household. I have never had to file the taxes. I have never had to have my car inspected. I have never had to budget for groceries. It was just there. And Pops was the private chef. So the grocery store is not where Mother thrived. She didn't have to worry about a thing. There was always her husband who took care of it. And it doesn't matter. It can be a partner, it could be a spouse, it could be whomever, significant other. But there are a number of us who have always had somebody take care of all of it. So my father, knowing that, he probably wasn't going to beat his lung cancer. And lung cancer advances really fast. I recall us sitting in the car after coming from the doctor, and he said, I need you to take care of everything for your mother. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like, sure, like, no doubt. He's like, no, take care of all the things. And he gave me a list of stuff that was going to have to be done so that she wouldn't have to worry. And when everything was said and done, it was clear that it was my job to now step in and make sure that everything was going to be taken care of for her. So my lessons of money and how to manage money and the power of cash comes from my dad. Do I wish, looking back, that we had a few more lessons? Yeah, I do. There's always that. But he gave my siblings and I a really good foundation about money and having your own. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say that. Watching them again sit at the kitchen table and go over the bills, talk about spending, does not erase the fact that Mother, when she had her credit card, would go shopping and wouldn't bring in the bags until after Pops was asleep. That did not escape me. Okay, so clearly they talked about most things, but there was a thing or two that maybe, okay, it did not get discussed. Okay, so let's be honest about that. I thought, now why is Mother not bringing the bags in? Because we would get out the car. She's like, no, leave those in there in the truck. Let's leave them in there. I'll come get those later. I'm like, oh, okay. Because kids don't know until you're old enough to understand the dynamics. But the few things my dad did bestow upon me was balancing your checkbook every Friday. And even though the checkbook is now digital, we balance it. Keeping an idea of how much you have in the bank. Also, keeping cash on hand. You never know where you're going to be someplace, and they don't take credit cards. They don't take debit cards, but they will take mean green. Pops was very clear that cash will always talk. Always. So keep cash on hand. To this day, I keep a little bit on me. And then when I'm traveling, I for sure take extra because you may find yourself in a position where you need to have some cash on you. And I get that we are moving to a very digital world. I love my digital wallet. I love it. But cash will always reign supreme. And in the event that something goes down, internet, access to funds, what doesn't go down is cash. So ladies, it is time for us to count the coins. let's get into the nitty-gritty about money and counting. Okay. The one thing I will say, if I say nothing else, is you have to recognize your relationship with money. Now, my father was not a miser. My grandfather was close to it. My great grandfather, for sure, was the tightest dude. I mean, tight. Now, fast forward to his great greats and great great greats. We are benefiting from his tightness, but my mother always says she has yet to see a U-Haul follow a hearse. So whatever you're running, whatever you're out here hustling, whatever you are stacking up, be sure to put in some time to enjoy that. Because when you're gone, and only your descendants or whoever you leave it to, your beneficiaries, are going to enjoy it. So don't work so hard and never enjoy the fruits of your labor. Let me say that. But let's get back to this relationship. So I watched my father and my mother work through their money as a team. There were some arguments. It's money. Like, let's not lie about it. There were some arguments. During the moments when they were a little tight, probably a few more than others, but there were moments when, again, mother's out there shopping, doing her shopping thing. Pop's like, what are you buying now? And why do we need that? And how much did you spend? That goes both ways because, hey, you got 4 kids. That's 6 mouths to feed altogether. 6 mouths to feed. And then there's a couple of pets. So, hey, and we're talking the 70s and 80s. So consider that. Like, I can't even imagine the cost now. Well, I don't have to imagine. I kind of know. But the cost is there. So when Pop would sit us down, he gave us some very good basics about keeping a household. Always have your staples on hand, right? Flour, sugar, pastas, frozen veggies, simple things. Always have the basics on hand so you can always have something to eat. Private chef, what do you expect? Keep a good pantry. He talks about keeping cash on hand. He also talks about not keeping all of your money in one spot. When my father passed away, I had to visit 5 separate banks. And even at those banks, multiple accounts. You move your money around. You make your money work for you. He also mentioned, and I didn't take this advice, you only need 1 credit card. So, side note, Gwendolyn did not take that advice. I didn't take it. Now, my grandmother, his mother, loved fashion. And she had a way of shopping at Neiman Marcus and Saks Fifth Avenue, and I loved it. I ate up every moment of going to Lord & Taylor and Marshall Fields, and it was beautiful. And I couldn't help but get myself a Neiman Marcus card. Not gonna lie about it. I love being in circle. Love going to those fashion shows. I was working part-time and in college, but wearing DKNY, buying Prada bags, all kinds of Prada accessories. Like, we were in the mix, faking the funk, living way, way beyond my means. And I'm not even going to mention the American Express gold card I had. I'm not going to mention that. Okay. Here's the story. You live and you learn. Now, my dad was clear when those credit card bills were coming in. He was like, you only need 1 credit card. Why do we have all these credit cards? Get your MasterCard, get your Visa. That's all you need. Well, see, MasterCard and Visa were not accepted at Neiman Marcus. I don't know if Pops knew that. It was carte blanche or the diner's card. That was it. Or theirs or American Express, right? So they were very clear. Fast forward, things have changed, but they didn't take all the regular. They didn't take that. They were not. They were about being exclusive. And I was like, Pops, don't worry about it. I got it. Yeah, I got it. I got it. We went through our stint of debt, and I am certain perhaps a few you have as well, because in the American society, we believe in just financing our dreams. We don't really believe in getting the money to pay for it the day of. We believe in, you know what? I put on my credit card, I'll pay for it later. I'll make it back. I'll earn it by blah, blah paycheck, right? Like we believe in that mindset. And it's only when you get burned because you didn't use your credit wisely that you change your habits about how you approach credit. Now, you need credit to get credit. So that's the funny part, but that's another conversation for another time. But he was clear. You only need one credit card. Because if you're going to rent a car, get a hotel, you need a credit card to do that. Now, I know they do a lot of debit cards now, but they'll hold the money, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, he was clear. But he mentioned keeping a rainy day fund. He didn't really say how much money should be in that fund. He just said, like, for emergencies. So Pops gave us some lessons, some very basic lessons about managing money. And I watched him. When Pops wanted something, typically he paid cash. Now, he used his credit when he needed it, but he paid cash. And when their credit was not good, when their credit was like trash, because we all go through our ups and downs. And I know we say we all, and there is a set of people who will never have this experience. And I'm okay with that. I'm talking to the masses right now. The masses. He got my mother this beautiful black Hemi engine quad cab from Dodge. Beautiful. He didn't get it with credit. His credit was not great. They were like, you know, Mr. Houston, your credit's not great. He's like, but I got this cash though. Do you know they left the lot with that truck? Cash, as my father says, will always reign supreme. Always. Because it talks. It talks a lot. So he left these lessons with my siblings and I. And the other lessons I grabbed as I learned from damaging my credit, like how to read the APR on those credit card applications. What does all of that fine print mean? And actually really reading it. Because as a kid in college, and yeah, I was a kid in college with a credit card. And mind you, my parents put me on their credit card early so I could start earning and growing my credit. Oh, and yet still I found a way to ruin it. But we live and we learn. But I learned to read the APRs, but I also recognized my relationship with money. I enjoyed having it and I enjoyed fashion, but I also didn't want to be without. So when I ended up homeless, yeah, that rainy day fund, man, it goes by really fast. Can I just tell you that? I don't know what happened. It went by extremely fast. That 6 months, poof, gone, just gone. And I thought to myself, how did I get here? But more importantly, now that I'm here, how do I get out of it? And so I turned to my roots. Make everything cash. Keep a budget. Make sure you take your lunch. I can tell you, I had more than enough days of red beans and rice, or just beans and rice, period. Spaghetti. Good, simple pasta dishes. But I worked my way out of it. But I also knew that I had to be more upfront and honest about my relationship with money. I'm not going to look back at the past and say, Gwendolyn, you were awful. I'm just going to say, look, I had it. I lost it. I can bounce back. And I'm not going to return to the habits or the practices that got me into that boat. Once you get out of debt and you're able to purchase what you want freely and outright, you really don't want to go back to that. But keep in mind, at any point, you can lose your job. You could have a downfall in your business. All those things can happen at any time. But if you plan properly, and I hate to say properly, if you give yourself enough of a safety net, you can get through those hard times without without losing the shirt on your back and perhaps your home. And again, nothing is ever set in stone. Money comes in, money goes out. So we can't hoard it. That's not the message here. The message here is not hoarding the money, but learning to have a healthy relationship with money, learning how your upbringing, the money scripts that you saw in your household or from your friends or from your family, how all of that impacts how you currently handle money today. So, it is that time for us to do a little work. Okay, I am perfectly fine. And I'm okay with being honest about the previous life I have lived when it comes to money. I said before, I had it, was well beyond my means. I mean, well beyond my means. I'm a 20-something-year-old shopping at Neiman Marcus, wearing top tier designer clothes, and yet getting on the bus to go home. Because, I didn't have a car because I was going back to New York, but still, sidebar. At the end of the day, I'm perfectly fine with sharing my story because we understand the relationship I have with money. I had to sit down and look at it. And when we say look at it, we're talking about get your annual credit report. You get 3 of them free a year. Free, 3 free reports a year. You get them. And there are also a number of apps that will give you one of your credit scores, which fluctuates daily. So don't freak out if one moment you're here and one moment you're there. It's kind of like the stock market. It fluctuates, but you get a general sense of where you fall. But in order to start this conversation, you got to look at what you have. What do you believe in? How do you see money? Do you trust yourself with money? Do you believe that you deserve to bring in the money that you're bringing in? If you work for yourself, how much do you charge for your services? Do you believe you're worth that? If you work for someone else, you want an hourly or salary wage, do you believe that you're worth it? Because some of us don't believe that we're worth it. And so when it comes time to negotiate a new salary, or it comes time to negotiate our pricing, depending on how we work in our own business, we don't believe that we're worth it. This is just tip of the iceberg in terms of conversations surrounding money. Looking at your past, not that it has an impact on your future, but it can. I don't see the way I handled money in the past as a failure. It's a learning opportunity. I have credit. I go out and buy stuff. The way I handled the credit is nothing like the way I handled it the first time around. We read the APRs. We understand how X, Y, and Z impacts all of this. I recall a good stint of time. I didn't pay a finance charge. A finance charge was a bad word to me. A bad word. I didn't want to see a finance charge. So we didn't charge anything to the credit card that I could not pay off by the very next statement. That's how we worked it. Learning new habits, because we can learn new habits, but more importantly, really thinking about our relationship with money. So I have a couple of ideas for you. One is Girl, Get Your Money Straight. Beautiful book that I highly suggest you take a look at. And this gets into not only discussing how money works, but it evaluates, this is self-evaluation. It evaluates your relationship with money and reworking the way you think about money. That is one. The second one is about making money. And this is Jen Sincero. You Are a Badass at Making Money. Love this book. Absolutely love it. And for those of us, whether you're working for someone else or working for yourself, understanding that you are worth it. Now, money, some of the topics, some of the lies we've been told is that money is the root of all evil. Money is the root of all evil. Money is not the root of all evil. It is not. Money allows us to do some of the things that we love and enjoy and take care of not only ourselves, but our loved ones. So that's what money does. So both of these books will assist you in rewriting your story with money. And that's the first start. If you don't feel comfortable talking about it, you got to get comfortable talking about it. When I met my husband, we were engaged. We took time out and I created the opportunity for us to talk about how much debt we were both bringing into this marriage. I had a student loan, a little bit of credit card debt, and then regular living expenses. He was coming off of a divorce. So he had far more debt than I had. And that's okay. But we talked about it up front. We started our relationship talking about the things that for some couples caused a great deal of chaos. My relationship with money is not what it was before. I have no problem talking about it. I can talk about how much debt I have. I can talk about the credit score I have. I can talk about how much I'm bringing in. There is no fear there. There's nothing to hide. And we have a joint account as well as our separate accounts. We talk about money in this household. But that required me to rethink my relationship and how I felt talking about money. So when we're discussing money and rebuilding that relationship, beyond having a very thoughtful and honest conversation, I'm going to also suggest you keep a money journal. And I know you're thinking, what? No, trust. The one thing about any journey is being able to see where you started and where you ended. And when I was going through my reworking stage, I had all these ideas of where I was going to be. And again, fell into that trap, living way beyond my means. But I knew I wanted to be ready to move back to New York. And I wanted to be ready to move back with a clean slate. I made a plan, got my journal. But number two, I got a partner. Now, I know it. We don't like telling our family and friends about what's going on when it comes to money, that we are barely making it, that we are $15,000, $9,000, $120,000 in debt. I get it. We don't like admitting that maybe we didn't know what we were doing with our money. The only way, no, that's not right. It's not the only way. In my opinion, the best way, in my opinion, to rewrite the relationship with the money is to be open, honest, and have a partner with you. It could be a best friend, it could be a family member, but find someone who can walk with you or a group who can walk with you through this journey. I had my cousin, I had my best friend. My cousin and I, we would share tips on how to reduce debt. And we celebrated each other's milestones as we reduced the debt in our profile. I was like, hey, we got one more credit card closed out. Perfect. I got one more ding taken off my credit report. Perfect. We celebrated the milestones. My best friend and I, we talked about the amount of debt we had, trimming the debt. If we even considered bringing on new credit to raise our score, we discussed the APR, we discussed the benefits, we discussed how much it would cost, like all the things. But when you have people to travel with you on your journey, it makes the journey so much easier. Not that you can't travel alone, because you could, but the human experience is so much easier when there is someone by your side, which is why I go back to it's good to have some friends. It's good to have somebody that you can talk to just say, this is me, full fledged, raw, 30,000 in debt, 580 credit score, making XYZ dollars an hour, trying to figure out how to get but once you set that down on paper, because now you're committed to what is truth, you're committed to what is true here, you can start working towards the future. You can say, I want to be XYZ debt free by this time. I want to pay for these things in cash. I want to get rid of blah, blah, blah credit cards. You can start working towards that. And it feels good when you can celebrate those milestones with someone else. Feels amazing, actually. Amazing. So, money journal, get you a friend that you can ride this journey with. Will make all the difference in how you stay the course, because it's time. And I'll just say this too, it is time. We know that certain aspects of your credit report are going to fall off in 7 years. Time is your friend. Some things, the easy things like the mistakes, yeah, the mistakes you can quickly get removed, but the history, that's time. It is time. Only time will wipe away that negative something that happened 8 years ago, right? That's only time. As you begin this journey, and this one, oh, it's a big one because it impacts everything you do, every single facet of your life. If you have enough, if you don't have enough, and money does not bring happiness. Let's go ahead and call it. It does not bring happiness, but it can buy bacon. It can buy champagne. It can buy chocolate. So it can buy things that make us happy. That's where that comes from. But as you start your journey on rebuilding your relationship with money, I advise you, I suggest that you give yourself the space and grace to grow and learn. We'll see you next time.